Hello and welcome to this special edition coming your way from Nile TV International regarding the latest developments in the region and more specifically in the Middle East, as Egypt condemned in the strongest terms the Israeli military escalation against the Lebanese territories and the south of Lebanon more specifically, and the military incursion that we have seen taking place for today against Lebanon. And to be shedding more light on such an important development, I am honored to be having with me over the phone Ambassador Saad, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for being with us tonight on Nile TV International and this special edition.
Thank you.
Anytime. First of all, how do you see the importance of this statement by Egypt and the Egyptian Foreign Ministry regarding the condemnation of the expansion and the incursion by the Israeli occupation authorities in the south of Lebanon?
It's very clear that Egypt is doing the utmost of what it can do in order to express its anger and condemnation for such a barbaric violation of the international law and the sovereignty of the Lebanese territories. However, I think we have to be very clear that Netanyahu is continuing this kind of violation as long as he's undeterred by the international community. I mean, this is something, it's shame and on the human history that that a country run by a terrorist that they are occupying and invading, infiltrating into another country without being deterred by the international community, not only by statements, but real action. The international community has the power to, at least through the Security Council, in order to apply sanctions. That is because this is a violation of peace and security according to the UN Charter. So Egypt is trying to warn, to wake up the international community that something has to be done in order to curb this kind of undeterred action by a rogue countries. I mean, it's clear that Israel is such a kind that on it applies the term rogue country.
Yes, Ambassador Saad, as you said that someone needs to be stopping Israel from those expansionary incursions into South Lebanon. What about the United States, the role of the American president in such a step to be stopping the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from his thoughts being implemented on the ground in the Middle East, and more specifically that we have seen negotiations taking place between the Lebanese government and the Israeli occupying government in Palestine in Washington on Friday?
Well, I'll have to be very clear on this. Of course, we know the limits of the United States, and we know in advance that the United States will never get to a point where they can apply any kind of sanctions or to stop Netanyahu, more than just giving a kind of advice. And Netanyahu is not listening to any advice, because what he's doing is just part of his agenda. His agenda covers the whole Middle East, let alone that it's distracting the international community and the whole world for getting further in the implementation of Trump's plan for Gaza. So the plan is clear. It's not a secret. You don't need a crystal ball in order to see what he's planning for, and he will continue that. Unfortunately, he will continue that as long as not only the United States is not taking an action, but the whole international community. Europe can take an action. China, Russia, Asia, Latin America. This is something has gone beyond any kind of limits. He has crossed all the borders of the respect of the international law. We will keep blaming the United States for not taking the right action, and we know that they will not respond to us positively, and the international community is still in a kind of coma, political coma. For what kind of country that can stop the whole world from condemning, from taking real action, not individual actions like, for example, what France has applied, in order to stop the Minister of Security from entering France. It's relatively positive, but this is not will not stop Netanyahu from taking the right action to retreat to his own country and respect the international law.
Ambassador Raouf Saad, you've stated that everyone knows the limit of the United States when it comes to the possibility of having sanctions being applied against Israel. Does this mean that the statements of the American President Donald Trump are inaccurate, stating that he was never pushed by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on anything, and in any case, and more specifically during the war with Iran, that he was not dragged, he was not dragging the United States, the whole of the United States and the taxpayers' money to be paid on a war with Iran? And my question clearly, who is pushing whom into which war? Is it the United States dragging Israel into the war with Iran, or vice versa?
Well, that's a very complicated question, but regarding the President Trump's statements, I think that now we have enough experience, of this kind of statements, and he will never admit that he's not being pushed by this or that, right? And we don't expect him as the president of the strongest country in the world. But for the agendas, it's a very personal view on this. I don't think that, if it comes back to Iran, I don't think that the President Trump or even the American administration's agenda is to have a regime change or to have a kind of a victorious action that he can claim. I think the agenda is to control over resources, over all the resources in the Middle East, not only in Iran. But Netanyahu's agenda is different. Netanyahu is different, covers the Middle East in terms of the expansion and changing the map of the Middle East, and he's still, unfortunately, counting on the kind of normalization with some Arab countries. So I think if you look at what I'm saying, and there are so many gaps here and there, and we as Arabs still have the power to change the situation. The European Union is suffering hard from here and there, whether in Lebanon or in Iran or Hormuz, whatever. So I think we are putting kind of hopes for theoretically for action from the United States, while other countries, the whole world, the international community will be held responsible, before the people, before the human history.
And within the statement of Egypt and the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, it stated that Egypt is calling on the implementation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution number 1701 to be giving the opportunity for the Lebanese institutions and the Lebanese army to be fulfilling its duties within the Lebanese territories, and more specifically in the south of Lebanon. How do you see the importance of this part of the statement in specific, and the opportunity of implementing it on the ground as soon as possible?
Well, I think Egypt what is doing its duty and making a kind of wake-up call. All right, we are not short of procedures or international decisions that would stop this kind of incursion. So Egypt is making, a kind of I would say wake-up call, but in a kind of blaming the international community, which has lost its memory. I mean, we are not short of decisions, but the big question is Egypt putting through this statement. Why doesn't the international community take the action according to its own decision through the Security Council?
Yes, on another front, today we have seen President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi receiving a phone call from the French President Emmanuel Macron, and hours later we have seen a call by France for a United Nations Security Council meeting or a session that could be taking place on Monday discussing the situation in Lebanon. How do you see the role of Egypt, and more specifically on the presidential level, with the bilateral ties between Egypt and France at an all-time high now, that after the call between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the French President, such a call from France had come up for the Security Council to be having a session on Lebanon on Monday?
Well, we know very well the position of President Macron regarding Lebanon. They have a very special interest, and they have been trying, as much as we could. I mean, I put up, underline these two words, as much as they could. Of course, what is within the hands is to call for a meeting of the Security Council. We need not to have a new decision, rather than to confirm that the decision that has been taken already has to be implemented. Otherwise, you have to move to a decision to the seventh part of the Charter, that that action should be taken by all means of the United Nations in order to stop this kind of aggression.
Yes, and speaking about the efforts of mediation for Egypt, as we have seen for the past 4 months, and more specifically the Middle East war raging between the United States and Israel and Iran, how would you assess the efforts of mediation from Egypt on the presidential level by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, on the level of the Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati as well, to be de-escalating the situation in the region, as that possibly there is a proposal going back and forth between the US and Iran that could be ending the war as soon as possible?
I strongly believe that what we know about the mediation by President Sisi and by Egypt altogether through the Minister Abdi is very much less of what is being done effectively. I believe that Egypt has never stopped not only mediating, but putting pressures here and there, expanding its contacts, consultations with other countries, putting possible solutions, and contacting all parties, including Iran, including Israel, including the United States, as well as associating its consultations extensively with the Gulf and Arab countries. So the role, as I have been saying all through, I mean, the history will reveal later, not necessarily during this period, the kind of efforts that have been done, the kind of pressures that have been put on Egypt, and the kind of pressures that have been Egypt is exerting in order to bring all parties to negotiations, in order to bring peace to the Middle East, in order to restore stability in the region and get all the countries of the region, including Israel, by the way, in order to live in peace and development.
On the other hand, regarding the war between the United States and Israel and Iran, in your opinion, Ambassador Raouf Saad, what are the main sticking points that are remaining that are being a stumbling block for having an agreement between the US and Iran to be stopping the war?
I think I have to apologize for repeating myself. I have said maybe in other occasions. I strongly believe that all what is happening now is still part of the negotiations. And whether it is statements, whether it's aggressions, whether it's attacks, it's part of the negotiations. Every and each party, the Iranians are playing their own hands, and the Americans are playing their own hands. Simply, the reason, in my view, is that they have nothing else nor to lose nor to win. And they have reached the point that they have to get back to the negotiating table in a kind of dignified manner, in a way that they can talk, each has to talk to its constituency, that he is the victorious in this war. So I strongly believe that no matter how long it takes, that they will go back to the negotiating table, even and without excluding the possibility in between to have skirmishes here and there, either political or militarily. However, the major difference here that Netanyahu's agenda is totally against peace, and I think the incursion happening in Lebanon and the destruction he is applying in Gaza and the West Bank is part of his extensive unstoppable efforts in order to distract the whole world from bringing peace to Gaza, because he is very afraid that if there is a wave of peace will start in the region, it could spread around, and that would give him, through it, he would lose all his cards, and he will get back to his own country, to face the legal accusation for his corrupt manner.
Yes, Ambassador Raouf Saad, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Nile TV International and this special edition that came your way on the channel. And of course, we discussed with Ambassador Raouf Saad the latest developments regarding the incursion, the expansionary incursion by the Israeli occupation forces in southern Lebanon or in South Lebanon, as well as the US-Iran peace deal and the negotiations to be ending the war. Thank you for watching and goodbye.